The New Galactic Era, Space Voyages, science fiction novel by Maria Obydenna. Chapter 9, The Ma People. For the past 3 months, Roland has been on Earth enjoying a vacation. Even in the era of super-advanced technologies, fatigue and the need to restore all bodily systems were a part of life in the solar system. As a human, Roland felt more relaxed and calm on the seashore. Simply contemplating the transparent greenish-blue water and waves with white scallops can change the frequency of brain impulses, immersing a person in a soft meditative state. The color blue is associated with calm and peace, and listening to the whisper of waves and water naturally calms and relaxes the brain. Fresh, salty sea air, full of negative ions that help soften nervous tension, and increased levels of the sun vitamin that seeps into bare skin make earthlings feel good. Being on the seashore forced Roland to change his rhythm of life and way of thinking. Life slowed down for a while, and Roland, stepping away from the world of crazy speeds, was able to simply be fully present in the moment. Even breathing changes as one observes the waves and wildlife, drawing attention from within to the external world and giving the mind space to reset. Importantly, this also allows the nervous system a chance to rebalance and reconnect with nature. Time on the ocean shore allows for unconscious and conscious recognition of the closeness of all aspects of life within the ecosystem, fostering empathy and eliminating any sense of isolation. To many people, the world seems a strange place, but Roland was lucky. Just looking at the seawater, listening to the waves, and scouring the shoreline for shells and shells was a pleasure. Roland's peaceful moment was interrupted by a sudden call from the Jupiter Science Facility. "How are you?" asked Tet, the old companion, in a cheerful voice. "I'm preparing an urgent expedition to the Sleeping Beauty galaxy in the constellation of Coma Berenices. Are you with me?" Silence fell, sudden and sharp, like a curtain dropped mid-scene. For a few seconds, which seemed an eternity to Tet, Roland was silent. Have you ever seen rose-quartz gardens, black oceans and lakes, silver rocky mountains? Do you want to fly with me to Sleeping Beauty? Ted asked. I looked up the scientific intergalactic encyclopedia about the relief of the planets in this area. The beauty is incredible. So what? Are you with me? Yes, Ted. I'm ready to journey with you to the ends of the universe, Roland replied. Sleeping Beauty was known in narrow circles as the Black Eye Galaxy in the constellation of Coma Berenices. To earthly aesthetes, the galaxy looks beautiful, like the long hair of a young girl adorned with a diadem. The galaxy originated from 2 merging galaxies with opposite rotation directions. The gas-dust disk in the inner part of the object rotates in the opposite direction to the rotation of the stars and gas on its periphery, forming a gas-dust vortex. This galaxy was called the Black Eye by ancient astronomers. Why don't you know? I don't know for sure. Probably one of the fictions or fairy tales. Ancient scientists made many assumptions, Ted pointed out. The population of the planets that revolve around Arcos star and to which we're planning an expedition belongs to the ghost people. Many millennia ago, their biological species suffered a powerful radiation burst from a supernova explosion near the planets, and as a result, the population was exposed to radiation. Despite the death of a significant number of people and diseases that began to destroy the population, some people survived. The explosion was powerful, and its consequences are evident even now. Hello, Roland. Roland saw Elisa on the Ettercom screen. Roland, Arcos is a blue star. The galaxy is called Sleeping Beauty. This area of the universe has been unstable for a long time as radiation pushed its contents outward while gravity pulled everything toward the center of the star. As a result, the star decreased in size and all the chemical elements heated up further. Usually, during a star's evolution, its core is destroyed, leaving behind a black hole in its place. This process continues to this day. The stars of the Sleeping Beauty galaxy are very active, and many of them, after a certain time, will turn into black holes. These galaxies were called the Black Eye by ancient astronomers. Why don't you know? Roland, I know this world seems strange, but I was lucky. Just looking at the seawater, listening to the waves, and scouring the shoreline for shells and shells was a pleasure. Roland's peaceful moment was interrupted by a sudden call from the Jupiter's science facility. "What do you think about the cat?" Tet suddenly changed the subject. "A cat? What's a cat here for? And I've never had a cat. I had a real dog when I was a kid, Tob. As for cats, there weren't any on Neptune where I spent my childhood. They only exist on Earth and the solar system." "About a cat? How can you know the state of a particle without measuring it? In our world, it's impossible to be in two states at the same time. At least, unless you wake up in the morning and don't know at first whether you're alive or dead."
Tat, are you kidding? If I understood you correctly, you wanted to ask if the ancient name of the galaxy had anything to do with the cat paradox, Roland asked. "We must hurry," Petersmith suddenly broke in. "I'm not sure this is a safe journey. There is not enough information about the stars in this area." "Let's discuss the cat later. Everything is ready for departure. We were just waiting for your consent," Tet replied. "I'm glad you agreed to take part in the expedition and see the natural beauty of the planets of the Sleeping Beauty galaxy. The Sleeping Beauty is a real carousel of two wedding rings that rotate toward each other. The inner ring, the wedding ring, rotates clockwise, and the outer one in the opposite direction. All this is a consequence of the merger of two galaxies in time immemorial. The mystery is how the forces of gravity act in this, directing the movement of the rings in different directions, which resemble the male and female worlds." A week on Earth passed. The laboratory on Jupiter continued its control measurements of space and the construction of a protective barrier on the outskirts of the solar system. General Gart suddenly entered the laboratory and excitedly asked Elisa, who was processing the latest data from the new colony. "Hello, where's Roland?" he asked. "He's not at the spaceport engineering bay. Did you ask him about the disappearance of the purple dwarfs from the radar?" "Roland isn't answering," Elisa Rasonikoff replied quietly. "What did Roland say?" Silence fell. "Roland isn't responding. We can't contact the starship." "What? Where's Roland?" "On the way to the Sleeping Beauty galaxy." "Interesting, interesting. A new expedition. When did they set off for the galaxy?" Gart asked. "Roland, Petersmith, Tet, and the crew have been driven to the planets of the Ma civilization for a week now. They're in an intergalactic hyperspace tunnel. They will be available soon," informed Elisa. "Elisa, please check the information about the galaxy," Gart asked. "I haven't heard about expeditions to this corner of the world for a while." There was little information stored in the main intergalactic data repositories about this area. "It's been a while since we visited the Ma people," Elisa informed General Gart. "According to our records, no scientific expedition has had direct contact with the planetary population for over 1,000 years. We have only contacted the Ma people through intergalactic channels." "What is Roland's mission? Isn't it his job to contact distant settlements?" "The Ma people are suffering from constant alien attacks, and we must help them counter these monsters and protect their species from destruction. They asked for help." "Now I understand," Gart replied. "Roland and Petersmith will deliver the scientific developments from our laboratory to the Ma and help build a protective barrier similar to the one on the outskirts of the solar system, but smaller. The intergalactic data store has information that the Ma live in two worlds at once. One of the most unusual descriptions of this place is that there are two worlds in which creatures from the planets of the Ma civilization simultaneously reside. They look like humans but resemble ghosts. They have their own unique language that we understand. I hope the Ma language hasn't changed much in 1,000 years. When the team responds, please connect me with Roland," Gart requested. Of all the planets in the Sleeping Beauty galaxy, the planets of the Ma people have the thinnest atmospheres, thinner than Earth's. The low surface gravity makes it difficult for biological beings to exist on the Ma planets. The weak magnetic field makes it difficult for humans to remain on the planet for long. While Earth's magnetic field protects the planet from many solar particles, the magnetic fields of these planets are weak. The thin atmosphere also contributes to extreme temperature changes. On the 10 planets of the Ma civilization, which are very similar in their characteristics, the atmosphere functions as a blanket, helping to redistribute some of the heat.
Rocky surfaces are bombarded by meteorites. Fast-blowing winds smash charged cosmic particles against the surface of the planets. Both the particles themselves and the heat they generate lift the surface's outer layer into the air. The heaviest atoms return to the surface, while the lightest, from gravity and the pressure of solar photons, remain in the atmosphere. The result is a rarefied atmosphere of sodium, magnesium, and calcium spread across the entire surfaces of the planets. The relief is an incredible beauty from the point of view of Earthlings. There are gardens of rose quartz that grow on silver hills high to the sky,
with black lakes and oceans. However, all the planets of the Ma are places of ghosts and mirages. A spaceship from the solar system has arrived in the Sleeping Beauty galaxy. The planetary headquarters of the Ma is located on Goff, one of the galaxy's largest planets. Coincidentally or not, the planet Goff is also known as the planet of multicolored moons and two suns. The people of this star are like ghosts. They never touch the ground, so they cannot be tracked by their footsteps. They have the power of flight and elusiveness. They hover in the air for a long time, but sometimes descend to the ground. The chemical composition of the physical shell of the population has changed significantly over the past 1,000 years due to radiation and constant exposure, making it difficult to determine which chemical compounds are present in their biological species. In bright sunlight, the Ma are translucent.
The space expedition has approached the Ma people, Roland announced. Do the planetary leadership know about our arrival? Now we'll find out, Tet smiled. Electric discharges have been registered in the atmosphere, and they are extremely powerful and frequent, incomparable to lightning on Earth. A hot, friable surface, mountains and volcanoes. Movements across the planet have been recorded, Petersmith reported. Around the shadow flying in the fog, rainbow rings are visible, radiating concentrically from the dark silhouette. No, these are not the Ma people. These are mirages, which are abundant on the planets, Tet answered. Our scanners showed that the Ma people are moving through the tunnels, of which there are millions on Goff. The tunnels are very, very long. We are trying to contact them. Petersmith, please find information about the Ma people. Before the first meeting, I would like to know more about them. The Intergalactic Data Storehouse reports that the Ma has a society with clearly defined roles, responsibilities, governmental and economic systems, religious rites and ceremonies, and social behavior in which group participation, support, and consensus play a major role. Their social and economic traditions reflect the importance of group participation in decision-making. The Ma's values reflect a cosmic identity and harmony of the individual. Central to this desire for harmony is a sense of permanence, the timelessness and predictability of nature as the core of existence. This worldview symbolizes eternity, the existence, and transcends all in its absoluteness, emphasizing respect for the environment. Is there contact with the Ma? Roland asked. Not yet. But the information about the Ma is interesting. The Ma attach great importance to harmony with nature, endure suffering caused by adverse weather conditions, and respect one another. Such values make the Ma people, who find themselves in a difficult situation, very reluctant to seek help. Their fear and distrust, caused by past confrontations with the solar system's main leadership, prevent them from seeking help even in the most difficult times. But such a day has come. The Ma have their own fortified settlements located deep underground. They have technically advanced space fleet, but are unable to resist attacks by alien creatures. What language do they speak? Will we be able to communicate with the ghost-like creatures? Roland asked. It's hard to say how their language has transformed over the millennia, but I hope an intergalactic assistant will help us understand each other, Tet replied. Don't worry, Tet. Our contact with the Ma will not be long. Scientists from the laboratory on Jupiter have prepared universal platforms and provided us with all the necessary keys to establish a protective barrier. The Ma will be able to establish protection on their planets without our support. Okay, Tet replied.
The spacecraft landed on the surface of Goff in a rose quartz crater that resembled a pink rose. The crew opened the side door and went outside. It was the usual bright morning of two suns, which often happened on the planet. The green and red suns hung above the horizon, one above the other, one larger, the other slightly smaller. The landscape was fascinating. Before the crew, a red lake with white islands, green birds with hooked necks, smoky mountains with shining peaks opened up, and all this under a bright purple sky. The lake began to shimmer from red to orange, pink and purple like magical quartz. Multicolored crystals at the bottom of the reservoir added to the landscape's mystery. Roland was the first to step onto the planet. Following him, Petersmith, and 3 other members emerged from the spaceship. "Roland, the Ma are already here. They are ready to communicate," Petersmith said excitedly. Expeditions very rarely had direct contact with civilizations on other worlds, even when those civilizations were similar to Earth's. "We have a big mission to communicate with the Ma people. They have changed a lot in 1,000 years, Tet noted.
On the shore of the quartz crater, which sparkled in the sun with all the colors of the rainbow, transparent silhouettes began to appear. These were the Ma. Their figures began to shimmer with different colors. Due to chemical elements, their bodies, in sunny weather across different areas, changed color from jade green to blue-pink to even amber yellow. No matter how the color changed, the Ma people would remain surprisingly transparent. You could look at the pebbles and rocks on the opposite side for a long time, as if through glass, at the figures of the Ma people. There were a few of them. Suddenly, the crew began to hear echoes of different pitches coming from all around. Only after some time did Roland realize that they were addressed by the Ma. The language was loud, hoarse, and to the untrained ear often incoherent. The expedition began little by little to distinguish sounds of different pitches, which were composed in a sequence of sounds. The expedition began to recognize hidden details in the language. The language resembled a rapid set of similar phrases, which blurred like the whistle of songbirds. "Roland," Petersmith came to his senses, "still, we can't do without the help of an intergalactic assistant. The Ma language has changed over 1,000 years, and although we know several galactic languages, we are unable to understand them." "Yes, let the intergalactic assistant help us," Roland replied. "Carter," Tet said to one of the crew members, "do you understand the Ma?" "Yes, I'll try to help, but there are no analogs of their language in our database of intergalactic languages. We need time to record and decode the Ma language." The great difficulties of understanding the language were somewhat alleviated after they began to use the language of the Vortex Galaxy. By repeating individual passages and studying them carefully, it was possible to catch many elements of this extremely elegant and expressive language, although many nuances and subtleties, and often its very essence, eluded the expedition. "Carter, how's the language going?" Roland asked after a while. "At first it seemed strange to me that the phrases of the civilizations of the Vortex Galaxy could provide a clue to understanding the Ma language. A dictionary built on approximate stylistic correspondences indicated a distant similarity between the Ma language and the spatial dialect of the Vortex Galaxy. Comparisons of the languages of Earthlings and the Ma language, often used for this purpose, never yielded any significant results and sometimes led in completely different directions. "Carter," Petersmith said, "we don't have time. Please, my friend, try to decode parts of their messages based on the information in our databases." The decoding took half an hour. The Ma had a unique language that resembled a song with ringing notes, whistles, and clear pauses. The high tones were repeated over and over, a unique feature. Finally, the Ma language was decoded. Because of the formal similarities of intergalactic languages, one should not conclude that these languages are close in content. There is no such similarity here. Although the language somewhat resembles Earthlings in its wit, flashes of strange humor, ingenuity, and unique grace, traces of humor can be detected in the Ma language. It is full of joy, energy, and wit. However, the Ma language partly resembles some stylistically sharpened scripts of the Vortex Galaxy, Carter explained.
"Thanks for the clarification," Tet replied. "The Ma civilization says it has been waiting for us with impatience. Their people are suffering significant losses from red dwarves. The Ma have been waiting for our help for a long time. The red monsters are one of the most dangerous species we can encounter in their galaxy. They resemble demons. They're very aggressive and often attack their planets. It should be especially noted that in the age of biocrits, intergalactic law strictly prohibits humans and biocrits from communicating with aliens and extraterrestrial civilizations. Humans are strictly forbidden from entering into any contact with aliens, even if they are identified and are in the intergalactic alien database. "Carter," Roland said to the scientist, "say hello to Ma and tell us about our mission. We have brought with us the necessary protection from the dwarfs, which will help them preserve life on the planets and resist the invasions of the red demons." "Okay, Roland, I've already explained, but the Ma is asking if we brought weapons with us to hunt the dwarves." "The protective barrier is a new generation weapon that protects the population and destroys aliens," explained Carter. "In the new era, weapons, in the understanding of ancient people, are not used. They have not been developed and manufactured for thousands of Earth years. The only invention that modern people have is megabombs. But even the name bomb is conditional. They are used in scientific research to restore the neural network in case of its destruction and to protect against hostile aliens." Despite some difficulties understanding the language, we tried to tell the Ma in detail about the protective barrier and the specifics of its installation on the planets of the galaxy, Tet reported. "Carter," Tet said, "tell the Ma about the neural network. It's in our best interest to have a protective barrier in this area connected to the intergalactic network. Threats could come from anywhere in the universe." Carter began a long story about the current structure of the solar system. Each intergalactic base has certain parameters that can change depending on the results obtained. This is the uniqueness and ability to learn and support the vital activity of the intergalactic network. The mega network has a high degree of connectivity. One base can have several thousand connections with other bases. However, this is an approximate value, and in each specific case it is different. The transmission of pulses from one base to another generates a certain excitation of the entire intergalactic network. The magnitude of this excitation determines the reaction of the network to some input signals. While Carter discussed life in the solar system, Roland decided to walk across the planet Golf. He knew that the conversation with the Ma people would last a long time. Walking along the Red Lake, Roland saw a black lake. Sitting on the shore, he was fascinated by the beauty of the planet. Watching, he involuntarily imagined himself a part of this magical world. Roland immediately realized that the underwater world of the transparent lake had its own laws. In the water, along the shore, creatures similar to terrestrial jellyfish swam. Birds, similar to terrestrial birds, splashed merrily. And there were fish under the water. And all this touched. The lake lived its own unique life. A geyser erupted from the depths, and purple steam rose above the surface. Lakes with red, translucent water cause sacred awe. The liquid's colors change one after another, and the new color can be either light blue or black. It is very rare to meet such beauty. Happy and satisfied with everything he saw, Roland thought for a long time about how amazing nature was. Indeed, the beauty of nature leaves its magical mark on everyone's life. Roland did not even notice how both suns began to hide behind the horizon. Lakes are the magical beauty of the planet. It is simply breathtaking. There are many reservoirs, which differ in volume, shape, and even color. Roland climbed one of the hills and saw a black ocean seething like boiling water.
Nature always has a positive impact on a person's mental health. It pleases the eye and beckons. Nature inspires comfort and balance in the soul. And looking at the water, this state of mind remains for a long time. The lakes of the planet are the personification of clarity and tranquility. Beautiful lakes are a gift from the gods, sent to people to enjoy this beauty. Roland began to remember the pure forest, untouched meadows with fragrant herbs, huge boulders covered with moss,
ancient trees, everything that breathes peace and pleases the eye on the planet Earth. Even the familiar green forest conceals many mysteries. Despite the silence that usually reigns in it, the forest is full of life. It is inhabited by many animals, birds, and insects. "So, are you surprised?" Petersmith's voice came over the intercom. "You won't see such natural beauty anywhere else. But it's time to return to the ship." "Yes," Roland agreed. "The beauty of the planet is striking. The landscapes are captivating. Blooming oases, castles in the air, and bridges floating above the ground are optical illusions, mirages. On the planet Goth, the image of a distant object can move. A piece of sky can look like water on the surface. Lakes that extend to the horizon are a typical mirage. Much less common are mirages in the form of mountains made of quartz, vegetation, and people themselves. They are observed above a strongly cooled surface. The light from the objects bends so that their images are visible high above the ground. Pink groves and yellow oases can grow out of thin air. Mirages are lakes that look like oases, but which do not actually exist. Sometimes such mirages are called lake. They look like a mirror surface of a lake, located on sand or another surface. Of course, trying to get close to such a lake is impossible. Mirages can occur not only on the cold side of the planet, they appear anywhere where there is a difference in temperature between different layers of air. However, they are much more common in hot places. Returning to the ship, Roland did not see the Maw people. Carter reported that he had given them as much information as possible about the protective barrier. Their mission is finished. "And on the planet Earth, it's Christmas today. Do you remember Christmas?" asked Roland Petersmith. "That's right. I missed Christmas," Roland replied. "The Maw people were glad to see us, but they advised us to return home as soon as possible," Carter said. "The vision of God and communication with God have ancient roots. The Maw people told us that they had a holiday very similar to Earth Christmas. The beauty you saw exists only in one of the worlds of the Maw civilization. If we suddenly find ourselves in another world, we will never be able to return home to our native solar system. People from Earth cannot exist in two worlds at the same time and see another world. The Maw said that not all people can exist in two worlds at once. In the other world, winds and hurricanes reign. Sleeping Beauty in four-dimensional space will change to winds and stormy oceans with huge waves in eight-dimensional space," Tet explained. "OZ, please provide us with information about Christmas. We have time before we leave the planet. As a child on Neptune, I often celebrated Christmas. OZ, please." OZ immediately replied, "In the era that preceded the robot age, Christmas was celebrated to commemorate the birth of Jesus Christ, whom Christians believe to be the Son of God. The name Christmas is associated with the birth of Jesus Christ. Christians remembered that Jesus died for them and then came back to life. For thousands of years, people have observed Christmas through traditions and practices that were both religious and secular. Christians celebrated Christmas as an anniversary of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth, a spiritual leader whose teachings were the foundation of their religion." Thank you, OZ.
Roland knew well that midwinter was a time of holidays on Earth. Centuries before the arrival of a man named Jesus, early humans celebrated the lengthening of the day and the start of a new year during the darkest days of winter. Many people rejoiced at the winter solstice, when the worst of winter was behind them, and looked forward to the longer days and more sunlight. Unfortunately, the Bible does not mention the date of Jesus' birth, the Son of God. It is generally believed that the Church chose this date to accept and assimilate traditions that had prevailed for centuries. By celebrating Christmas alongside traditional winter solstice celebrations, Church leaders increased the likelihood that Christmas would be accepted by the people, but they gave up the opportunity to dictate how it was celebrated.
As Roland gazed at the incredible beauty of the black sky, he remembered the story of the birth of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who was born and raised from the dead. When it was time for Mary, the mother of Jesus, to give birth, she had to go to Bethlehem for a census. The city was very busy, and there were no rooms available for Mary and her husband, Joseph. So she gave birth in what was probably a stable or barn, and laid Jesus in a manger for animals. There was no royal reception in the palace of Jesus, the Son of God. Instead, on the night of his birth, he was probably surrounded by animals, not royal servants. Growing up, Jesus experienced persecution, loneliness, grief, hunger, and anger. He came into the world to live life as a human being, to live among people and understand their struggles. Stories about planet Earth often mention the star of Bethlehem that led the 3 wise men to the manger, an animal feeding trough where Jesus lay in the hay. Now we can go to the manger for spiritual food. But no one is sure which star the wise men followed, or whether it was a star at all. The most famous star in the history of the planet Earth, the Christmas star, held a special place in the lives of ancient people. The Star of Bethlehem heralded the birth of Jesus. Astronomers have proposed various theories to explain the celestial phenomenon that Earthlings mistook for a star in the sky, including planetary conjunctions, comets, and supernovas. Some suggest that a rare conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, known as a triple conjunction, may have created the bright, striking celestial image around the time of Jesus' birth. Ancient astronomical software was used to recreate the night sky as it looked at the time. Models created by Earthlings support the idea that certain celestial configurations, such as planetary conjunctions, could have created a bright light in the sky around the time of Jesus' birth. However, the star drew people to the newborn Christ. The idea that important events or people were announced by signs in the sky was common in most religions of the time. Astrological events were often believed to foretell the birth of great heroes or rulers. The Star of Bethlehem is a reminder of Jesus' birth, his reign, and his divine nature. The night sky has always been a great mystery to man, and humans have always wanted to know what was beyond it, in the universe dotted with myriads of stars. Since ancient times, people have carefully and with curiosity peered into the night sky. Sprinkled with thousands of stars, different in brightness and color, the night sky both attracted and frightened with its mystery. Sometimes, clusters of night stars gave rise to complex shapes or figures in people's imagination, which they drew from them.
The sky has always been a bridge between the known and the unknown. In ancient times, the sky was the realm of the gods, who dictated people's fates. In various religions, ancient rituals and practices served to establish a dialogue with forces beyond the control of rational man. And if the sky is the realm of the gods, then celestial phenomena must be some kind of message by which the gods speak to the people down here. For millennia, this has been the belief of countless religions. Even now, as this kind of supernatural connection to the sky has changed with scientific knowledge, people still believe in astrology, another way to extract meaning from celestial phenomena that supposedly affects people on Earth. Christmas is a time for holidays, when many families and friends come together. The birth and life of Jesus is a message of good news, and it means that a person is never alone in the universe. No matter how difficult or hopeless a life situation may seem, God, the mind of the universe, is always with humans. Ancient people believed that they did not need to overcome difficulties and life's vicissitudes on their own. Reason, as a component of the universe, understands them and paves the way. Christmas morning on Gough was very cold. I loved this holiday as a child.
Now it's time to leave the Ma forever, Roland said. In a new era, in the black void of space, we sail on a ship without a chimney, and our mythologies are outdated, Tet added. We don't keep earthly traditions for our children. Anyway, missing Christmas is harder than letting go of the saints, Roland replied. We tried to get rid of the names of the months and also gave up the meaningless 365-day year. We wanted to be free from our earthly life, to be new beings, cosmic beings, beings of darkness and stars. Although, somehow the loss of time was more terrible than the loss of ourselves in the great geography of space. We kept the year and its old-fashioned months. So today, on Christmas Day, I cannot help but think about the fate of man and the mind of the universe. I look with hope at the stars. Understanding consciousness is the key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe, Tet added. Looking at the monitors, Roland understood that the spaceship had reached the speed of light and entered an intergalactic tunnel.